Okay, not sure where this one's going to take us, but we'll see. We'll start with today's insight, which prompted me to come on here. You know, I finished I don't watch that much TV, but the show The Good Place was recommended, and I kind of binged that, my version of binging, over a couple months or whatever. And one of the messages at the end of the show is a very philosophical, entertaining, comedic, but philosophical show. And one of the main messages at the end was there are no answers. Accepting that there are no answers, that it's a mystery. And that's certainly a very, it's not a profoundly unique perspective. Certainly heard it many places. But as I often do, I like to kind of flip things on their head in order to understand them better. So this concept of there being no grand answers in life regarding the purpose of life, which is what this channel is a reflection on. And if we're talking about answers, that means we're also talking about questions. So the question, contradictory as it might sound, is, are there any questions? Is it really so much that there are no answers? Maybe it's there are no questions. As people who are, human beings in general, are seeking by our nature. We're constantly seeking to fulfill our desires, to find comfort, fulfillment, completion of various kinds. You could say, as spiritual seekers, we judge that seeking spiritual goals is all well and good, but then the seeking of physical or material goals and pleasures, that's something to be, looked down on, I suppose. So we're seeking, we're chasing, we're wondering, we're confused, we're wandering, we're exploring. And then you can come to this conclusion, or you can explore, there really are no answers, there is no purpose. But what does that type of an answer imply the question is? What is the question? The question is, what is the purpose of life? It sounds like a coherent thing to ask. Those sound like words that have meaning. But let's really look straight on at what that question is. Does it actually mean anything? What is the purpose of life? So what is? Start with that. What is? Do you know what is? How about just that? What is? Is that even a question? Isness, the state of being, state of existence. What is isness? Opposed to what is not, we enter into the binary. What is not certainly cannot be spoken. It doesn't even really make sense to articulate the concept of something that isn't a concept or isn't anything at all. What is not doesn't exist. So what is self-evident. So what is? Okay, so just self-evident experience of existence and being. Awareness. This mug. The phone or screen or whatever you're watching this on. It just is. It's all included. There isn't anything that isn't. There isn't anything that isn't. Right? That seems pretty self-explanatory. There isn't anything that isn't. So everything. Okay. So what is the purpose? So everything that is just self-evidently exists. And then the purpose. So now we're specifically the isness of purpose, the concept of a purpose. I'm not sure what the etymology of the word purpose is. I haven't looked into that one. I'm not going to try. But in a conventional sense of the term, purpose refers to reason, motivation, essentially a reason or motivation to act or be or become in a certain way or to achieve a certain state. So it's not what you want. It's like what's the driving force? What's compelling you or anything to move, to act? But it's a reason. Reason can be a force. So what is the purpose? Now, a reason. When we get into the realm of reason, we get into the realm of thought. So what is the purpose? What is the reason for action? Well, the answer is really one in most parlance, one that is of relative context is very important. Relative context is very important in this case. Like you can have the purpose for drinking a cup of tea is because you were thirsty or just wanted, had some type of impulse, like want something to drink. Make a cup of tea. That is the purpose for drinking a cup of tea. A physical kind of instinctual desire for one. Maybe it's also comforting. It could have some emotional impulse desires behind it, a mix of those things. And you could say that's the purpose. But that purpose is relative. There's a cause and there's an effect specific to the cup of tea and drinking it. So when we get into this purpose, the reason for doing something, a thought to motivate action, or a thought that describes the motivation for an action. You can't really pin it down because ultimately you just end up kicking the can down the road. So the thing that motivated an action also has, something that caused it, right? Whatever, the tea metaphor, you can use whatever you want. There's a reason I was thirsty. Maybe I was thirsty because I hadn't had something to drink for a certain amount of time, and that's what the body's survival mechanism is. Then we could start talking about the evolution of the human body through time, what we know about that or what we assume about that. Or then, so that's like the physical level of the desire to drink a cup of tea. The emotional level is, maybe I want some type of warm, comforting feelings, kind of a rainy day. It'd be nice to have some warmth. It'll make me feel a little less, maybe it was a little melancholy and that. So, then you can psychoanalyze, why was that your state? Was it just the weather? Was it other thoughts going on that are related to other parts of the story of my life and my perceived experiences? So now it's really that we thought we had the reason for drinking the cup of tea, but it's really interdependently related on so many factors that we can't really say what the purpose of drinking the cup of tea was. We thought we had it, but it's really just a practical answer. It's not really the all-encompassing answer. And that's the way that any type of thoughts, any type of reason works, because it's relative to other thoughts and reasons. So you can't really have an absolute reason for doing anything, because every reason for doing something is inextricably, I'm saying that right, tied to every other reason. So what is the purpose of life? So what is the reason for action and becoming of life? And what is life? What is life? Well, we said what is, and what is all there is. What isn't never is. So life, what is life? It's a good question. This has been debated in philosophy and many religious and spiritual traditions, of course, throughout the course of known time in human civilization. As a concept, we compare it to death. If it's not life, then it's dead. If it's not alive, then it's dead. But just like what is, there's no such thing as what isn't. Is it possible for there to be life that is not living? Then it's dead. Death. If death is not, it indicates a lack of life, then it's a lack of being. Unless we want to define life as only things that we determine are alive, right? Like animals and plants and people, whereas inanimate objects like rocks and this cup, we want to say they're not part of life, they're not living. So you can ask whether you agree about that. Our definition of life, everybody assumes that the definition of life is very well defined, But ultimately, the more we learn, as far as a scientific, empirical, information gathering goes, we discover that even inanimate objects are very much in motion. They consist of energy and subatomic particles of various kinds. There are electrons buzzing around in there. There's a whole lot of motion and a whole lot of stuff going on just because they seem to be dead, right? They're still full of energy and organized moving energy. You could say maybe perhaps they're at a lower vibration, but that's where it gets very difficult to really say that anything that exists, if it exists, that means it's not dead. It also means that it doesn't not exist. That it doesn't not exist, right? Double negative there. Nothing doesn't exist. Does that statement even make sense? Death is the absence of life. Everything that exists is living. So what isn't is not, and what is dead doesn't exist. So life is just what is. Life is also what is. So the beginning of the question was, what is the purpose of what is? We could just replace life with what is. So yeah, what is the purpose of isness? What is the purpose of just self-evident beingness? What is the purpose? And again, the purpose is like the motivation or the force compelling something to be, and it's everything we observe is constantly moving. But purpose doesn't necessarily need to imply action, I suppose. It could just imply a preference for a state of being. Can a purpose be separate from a current state of affairs? Would you really say it's your purpose if it's like, maybe I have brown hair. If I say my purpose is to have brown hair, you already have brown hair. Like, purpose is something you're moving toward. I could say I want to dye my hair, right, a different color, then my purpose could be that. Could you really say my purpose is to be what you already are? I suppose. Purpose doesn't need to imply action. So I guess purpose doesn't need to be... Is purpose the same thing as a goal? It's like, my goal is to have brown hair. My goal is to drink this cup of tea. So you already have attained those things, clearly. It's not a goal. So what is... This word purpose we're still a little hung up on. Purpose is a reason. It's a reason or a motivating principle What's the opposite of a purpose? Right? I said I like to flip things on their head to understand them. So what's the opposite of a purpose? Just like aimlessness, right? So again, aimlessness, or is that the opposite of a goal? Because aim is like, in order to aim at something, you have to be separate from the thing that you're aiming at. You can't aim at yourself, like the aimer can't aim at themselves. So aimlessness, so maybe that, maybe not. So purpose, really should look up the word purpose. Opposite of the word purpose. Baselessness, foundationlessness. Baselessness. To be without foundation, to be without structure. Structure implies immovability and firmness and limitation, right? You want motion to be limited. Also, yeah. Very much like purpose being tied in with a reason. A reason is something that can be seemingly articulated and pinned down. The opposite of reason is incoherence. No stability, no structure, in a sense of thought. But it's funny, just like life, like death is a phantom, non-existence is a phantom, right? Because literally their definition means they do not exist. They have no substance, they have no reality to them. Self-explanatory, and yet we think we can compare what is to what is not. Like, you can't compare what is to what is not. You can only compare what is to what is. There is no what is not. I think you can compare life to death. It's like, well, this is life, and then there is not life, and we're all scared of what that is. But it doesn't exist. There's only life. Life is the only thing that there is. We experience constant changes. Things come and go. Things are never even as they appear to be. They're gone before you even have conceived of it. You are different than you were a millisecond ago, let alone a day or a year or a decade. You're totally different. So purpose. What's the opposite of purpose? What is the word is just very incoherent. I mean, it has a practical meaning when it's like, why did I drink the cup of tea? Like, okay, we can have a conversation, we can navigate the world, that's what language is good for. But when we try to apply language and thought to these overarching issues, we ask questions like, what is the purpose of life? And we think we've asked something. And then we can't find an answer to it because the question doesn't make any sense. And it's like, okay, yeah, sure. And then you spend a lot of time in a mode of seeking, like just searching for the answer. Eventually you don't come to the answer, but you didn't even really articulate what it was you were searching for because you never realized that the question didn't make any sense to begin with. The question is really a statement. It's really, what is the cause of what is. Life is what is. What is what we're asking about. Like, what is the nature of existence? What is the truth? What is truth? Truth, you can't even not say the word is in the what you're asking. It's just on repeat. It's ineffable. And purpose is referring to a cause. And in this case, what is the cause of life? And you could say your life, my life, different perspectives of life, but everything is just life. Our different human perspectives on the world. But ultimately, life is the same everywhere. Beingness is the same everywhere. Awareness is the same everywhere. Just constant fluctuations and manifestations of it that are constantly shifting and changing. Yeah, but it's a circular question. It's circular, which is illogical, right? And it's not that it's illogical, it's just beyond the scope of what logic is capable of and what it's used for. It's just used for navigating the world. It's a tool that we use to navigate the world of form and appearance, which at its core is a delusion. It is emptiness. That's not a judgment. It doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it's not actually there. It just means that the question you're asking actually isn't a question. But we can pretend it is. We can seek it out. We can seek out the answers and chase our own tail. Only to realize that there is no tail. There is no chase. There's just us. Observing ourselves in this moment, being with ourselves. Different, perspectives and units of beingness, which is what we are. We are life. We are the purpose of life. We are the cause of life. Life is caused by us. What is the cause behind what is. And this is, to get biblical, I am that I am. God doesn't have any questions. And if you really think about it, let's say you could talk to God directly, what would you ask? What would you ask that you don't already know? Good question. We'll see you in the next one.